Hi, I'm Trevor, and this is Raised on Film. A film is a time machine. If I want to see people live from over a century ago, I can access it with a few quick searches on YouTube. Besides witnessing the past, a film can allow us to reconstruct it. Suppose a film has done its due diligence, portrays the past, specifically historical events, responsibly, and has the resources to achieve a suitable level of accuracy. Aren't we kind of time traveling via the experience of watching? What other medium paints as complete a picture of another world as film? We can watch generation-defining moments.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we have a problem.
The intimate struggles and joys of some of history's most towering figures, or a vital retelling of a person or people that have been erased or forgotten by time. Certain films go one step further. In their efforts to capture not just the story, but rather to evoke the feeling and spirit of a time, they graduate from historical drama to the subject of today's video, period pieces. And when discussing period pieces, what better place to start than with the paragon of the genre, Stanley Kubrick's Barry Lyndon.
That's all the money my mother had in the world. Mightn't I be allowed to keep it?
Barry Lyndon follows a young Irish rogue as he fails upward into the high society of 18th century Europe. The film is based on the 1844 novel The Luck of Barry Lyndon, and if we look at it through that lens, we learn about not just the period of the story, but the time it was written, and then even maybe take it a step further and we can examine what can be gleaned about the time the film was made, 1974. A window into 3 different time periods. The film goes to great lengths to be accurate to the period in which it takes place. There are no anachronisms in the language or customs, the costumes are so authentic that some of them are actual antiques from the period, and Kubrick went so far as to insist that candles light all the interior scenes. Mostly. It's a pretty common misconception that no modern lighting was used in the film, but, come on. Regardless, the film is stunning to look at and revolutionary. These meticulous steps culminate in a film that feels straight out of time, almost like watching a story told through Victorian-era paintings. The film's pace and editing align with the speed of life at the time. Shots are long, scenes are slow and subtle, things happen over long periods, it's all voyeuristic, and there are no quick cuts. An effective period piece is more than just authentic language and costumes. Barry Lyndon is maybe the most period-y period piece ever made. Its emphasis on historical accuracy still influences films today, but the feelings that the film conveys, the threads of connection we make to these characters from seemingly whole other worlds, bears a remarkable resemblance to another film, and one that usually doesn't top the lists of great period pieces. Greta Gerwig's directorial debut, Lady Bird.
You should just go to City College. You know, with your work ethic, just go to City College and then to jail, and then back to City College, and then maybe you'd learn to pull yourself up and not expect everybody to do everything.
Set in 2002, Lady Bird is about a young woman from Sacramento navigating her senior year of high school and her ever-straining relationship with her mother. This film is an odd milestone for me. It was the first coming-of-age film that took place at the exact age I came of age. I attended high school from 2001 to 2005, and the cardigans, the parking lot hangouts, the endless number of friends in an indie band playing in boutique coffee shops were all just as accurate for me as they were for the film. Beyond accuracy and evocation, the most critical thing distinguishing a period piece from the aforementioned historical drama or a sword and sandal epic is the idea of the world as character. Now, we touched on this in our video Nature as a Force, but in short, some films effectively make the setting so impactful to the plot that it itself becomes a character. Period pieces explore this further and expand the scope of the setting to not only the immediate surroundings, but also to the world writ large, the time, and even the zeitgeist. What are the forces at play during that period influencing the climate, and how is that, in turn, affecting the mood and actions of the characters in the film? The most influential period pieces capture a zeitgeist so powerfully that all the characters have to do is live inside of it, and we as the viewer are just observing life during that time, in the same way one might recall memories of their youth, or how hearing a story about a parent's childhood allows us to gain further insight into who they are, or even understand them in a new and different way. If Lady Bird was set in today's world, its characters wouldn't feel the same, and the film would just hit differently. Much like Barry Lyndon, everything about the film puts you undeniably in that place. The roots of these stories are the human condition, but the period and the forces therein are what allows them to grow and transcend beyond a typical drama. Both films keep the current events of the time, war and political turmoil in Barry Lyndon, and the post-9/11 fear-mongering and hyper-jingoism in Lady Bird at appropriate distances from the audience.
My mom thinks I can't get in, but she is sorely mistaken. What about terrorism? Don't be a Republican.
We have brief moments of military training and combat in Barry Lyndon, which is mentioned as a fundamental part of every young man's upbringing at the time, similarly to the rite of passage of high school featured in Lady Bird, but no deeper understanding of the broader political forces at play, and the entire second half of the film exists in societies virtually untouched by daily strife. In Lady Bird, we catch glimpses of current events on the television, but the worlds in both films primarily exist as a force that the characters live at the whims of. While the period is critical for the film to be effective, the historical elements are ultimately not that important. This reflection on how the world shapes us in little and big ways, and how we, in turn, let those little ways influence how we treat other people, is illuminated by these films. The distrust, malaise, and cynicism of the early aughts are reflected in Lady Bird and her mother's hostility. This malaise and cynicism can be found in Barry Lyndon as well, with the titular character sharing many qualities with the lead of Lady Bird herself. Both characters are simultaneously braggadocious and full of self-pity.
Here is my toast to you, Captain John Quinn.
No, because I did really well on the last quiz.
I seem to remember you doing only slightly better.
It brought my average up to a B.
They both are strongly opinionated, jaded, and, well, overwhelmingly average, which feels like the embodiment of the post-history reckoning that America and Europe were navigating in 2002, 1844, 1975, and 2017. Period pieces, regardless of how far into the past they are set, allow us to see the universality of human nature. And regardless of how different the location, the culture, the technology might be, we can still see a reflection of ourselves in the past and gain a better understanding of our present. And although some films are made to be period pieces, all films, without exception, are destined to become period pieces. They reflect the time that is presented and the times that they were made. Take any film made representing the time in which it was made, from any year, and you will find windows into that time and place. A film made in 1942, which takes place in 1942, will tell us a great deal about the era, even if it doesn't mean to, through its content, pace, and style. Even a sci-fi film that takes place in the future gives glimpses into the era it was made. Look at films like The Fifth Element, Brazil, and Logan's Run. All display glaringly the values of the era in which they were made. Films of today, regardless of setting or content, will eventually become their portals into the world of old.